And I am back. That was very quick for me. I literally just hit stop recording and then start recording for this. This is going to be the explanation, storyteller, dev diary of Fort Myers by Night, City of Palms, Session 10. First and foremost, I want to say we got our venue. We are going to be playing at New Plague Tattoos in Fort Myers. I will put the description in, or I will put the address in the description. So that everybody knows where it is. If you're in Fort Myers and you're interested in playing, come on in and join us. It is a free LARP. There's no reason to be shy about it if you're in the area. I will say, however, you need to reach out to us. If you want the total game experience on your first night being there, you have to reach out to us ahead of time. After the Saturday before game, so effectively the last Saturday of the month, we do not check character sheets anymore. That will have to wait until the next time, because we need to have character sheets ready. We need to have all of the information before you are allowed to come in and have full access. Now, we do have a house rule that does allow new players to come in and play right off the bat as long as they have a character concept. And that is, you lose all ties because you don't have a character sheet that's approved. And with the way that LARP goes, you could actually still successfully do things in this game, even if you're losing all ties, if you're throwing well. And the other thing is, you don't have access to any of your disciplines because no character sheet. Therefore, you can do some basic social interactions without anything. And if you get caught in a situation where tests are going to be thrown, we will absolutely allow you, if you do not have a character sheet, to call fair escape. You can get out fairly easily, even if you typically would not be able to. We will find a reason for that to happen. But until a character sheet is accepted, you lose all ties and you do not have access to your disciplines. But please, come on down to New Plague Tattoo, address and description, to play Fort Myers by Night, City of Palms. That little advertisement out of the way, I would like to go on about the description of what happened. So, the Elysium was being held at a cemetery. This was being hosted by our Nosferatu Primogen, which, I just gotta say, we have a revolving door when it comes to the Nosferatu Primogen on this game. I'm pretty sure that after this session, we are now on our third Nosferatu Primogen in 10 game sessions. That's 10 months. Technically, we didn't miss one session due to Hurricane and Gen Con. So this is effectively 11 months that we've been playing this game, and we now have our third Nosferatu Primogen, because the first person who played, his work schedule got tangled up and he didn't want to hold the game up, so he ended up stepping down for one of the new players who was joining as a Nosferatu. And then, due to personal reasons and wanting to try a different thing, she ended up stepping down, and another person got put in place. So we are now on our third Nosferatu Primogen. So yes, we are. We're being set in a cemetery. The outside patio area of our venue, which is massive and has lots of little enclaves and hallways and benches and stuff like that for people to just find a place to run personal scenes, was the cemetery itself, while New Plague Tattoos was set up to be a mausoleum, which I gotta say, this place just looks amazing. So again, thank you very much to the owner-operator, Daniel, for letting us utilize your area. And I hope you're having as much fun as we are. There was a lot going on, but it was mostly a lot of stresses. So within the downtimes of this game, which there is a massively active downtimes part of this game for the community over Discord, the Hekata that we hired to help get rid of all the wraiths came in as the prince's special guest. They had been talking. There was a little bit of downtime drama where people don't trust him, and I don't even know really how much to get into because I don't want to give away people's personal plot lines, but it was incredible. Just the total interaction which turned a game against an NPC that they barely knew. And the prince walks in like he's his best friend. So we walk in, and of course, instant drama. We do have some very interesting characters who have animal retainers, animal ghouls, familiars, who are basically doing a perimeter check and keeping humans out of the area. We find out later that one of those vampires, who isn't really too quick on the draw, I'll put it that way to be polite, his name is Bubba, has a Florida panther, a cougar, who he has told to eat people and drag the bodies out into the woods and eat them to keep them out. That had to be fixed because someone decided that it would be a great idea to order flowers to the Toreador Primogen, roses to be specific to the Toreador Primogen, with this like snarky little note attached to it. The problem with this is that Puna, our dear Puna, who is the Toreador Primogen, has a severe dislike of red roses. I know, which is completely against the way Clan Toreador tends to work. However, it set her off because it is well known that she hates these things. This is a personal attack, obviously. So after dealing with the fact that there was a human that was about to get torn apart by wild animals, which the prince and the gangrel primogen went out and handled that, and also wiped the guy's memory so that he didn't remember the details of, oh, I went to a cemetery and there was a bunch of creepy people wandering around the tombstones for no reason. Anyway, he went out, the prince brought in the flowers and set Puna off. Luckily, the player is very sharp-witted and was able to play it off very, very well. And most of that drama was held contained. There's a bunch of little here and there. We had some new players, which is absolutely amazing. I love it. Fort Myers by Night is my baby and Lore's baby, and we are loving watching it flourish. People are getting all settled in with their characters. Everybody's learning the system. It's just very, very fun. Now, the old Fort Myers game, which was Souls Who Brave the Darkness, that I was a player and then an assistant, and then eventually took over for, we had like 275 players at one point in time. It was insanity, and it stretched from vampire to werewolf to mage to hunters to changelings, various Farah shifters that aren't wolves. So it was this massive thing, and we would like to see it get to that point at sometime in the future, but like, the fact that we have like 40 people right now who come to this game and have an emotional investment. Some of them travel from very, very far away. We have people who drive down all the way from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way down to Fort Myers, where we hold the game. That's a drive. That's 5 hours that they're spending on the road to get there and 5 hours back. Thank you for the dedication that you guys have to Fort Myers by Night. Not to mention, we do have a player who comes in from time to time from, like, Illinois. I think they drove the first time, but I think it's going to be plane rides. Now they only come like once a season, so it's not as bad. But I mean, I was about to say I've never traveled that far to a game, but that is a lie if you look at my history. So I guess I can't say anything. But I'm definitely honored that people enjoy themselves enough to come to my game like that. So to round things up, the biggest drama of the night was that a good chunk of the game, most of them being Primogen, which was, from what I understand, completely coincidental and it had nothing to do with the Primogen themselves, sequestered themselves into the mausoleum to discuss both the Brujah Primogen, who a lot of people have lost trust on, due to interactions that led to the death of a character, and the sheriff, who people think are not doing their job well. And I'm going to go ahead and point out right now that a lot of that had to do with the fact that we were just busy this past month, and getting information from one person to another didn't go as well. And we do kind of insist that there is a storyteller, at least in the chats on the Discord, if there's anything going to be happening in character. Because we did have an incident earlier in game where someone spent an entire day working out this amazing plotline post, and then one person that they were playing with decided that they didn't want to anymore, and it was literally hours wasted, and nobody really had anything to do about it. So it led to a lot of confusion. And resentment. And I will admit that I'm one of those people who was resentful for the players wasting their time on that. So they're in the mausoleum and there's a huge thing, and one of our characters, Genevieve, a Ventru, comes out to get the prince because he's not involved. So I go in there for like a split second and I find Lore running this scene perfectly. And as I walk in, and everybody's like, is the prince actually here? And I'm like, yes, I am here. Lottie actually told me to leave. The Malkavian Primogen actually told the prince to get out. And I told them straight out, I was like, you all have all of the right to meet without me. In fact, I've given you all a chamber in the hotel that the prince runs, where they can have these meetings without the prince being there. So I left. That's it. I ended up hanging out with the Brujah and talking, which is when the trouble actually started, because lack of information. When I walked in, I assumed, because I saw pretty much all of the Primogen but one, not thinking about it, I just saw Primogen. Having a conversation, I assumed it was a Primogen meeting, and I disregarded the fact that the others were there. I was like, fine, City wants to have a talk without me around, that's absolutely fine. I leave, I go sit down, I'm talking with the Brujah. At this point in time, by the way, last game session, the last game description, I told you that Tony the Brujah had this amazing plan. It fell through. The reason it fell through is because he sat and spoke with the prince. And the prince is just a charismatic guy, and was able to just smooth things over by getting Tony the Brujah connected with a faction, which is an organization of kindred from various sects, multiple clans involved. It's something that they do in DE, in the Darkness Emergent games from By Night Studios. The prince has a personal connection with the Iron Horsemen, which is an organization of kind of like the Pony Express for kindred. They travel around, they smuggle, they do all that stuff. So the prince got Tony hooked up with them and smoothed everything all over, apologized for the inconvenience in business, and has gone out of his way to make sure that Tony's able to build himself back up properly. So either way, I sat down with Clan Brujah, Tony, a couple of the others, and I realized that sitting in front of me, engaging in this conversation I was in with Clan Brujah, was the Brujah Primogen, which everybody calls Rasputin, by the way. He's this big, scary Russian biker guy. So we're sitting there talking, and I was like, how come you're not in the Primogen meeting? And he goes, "Excuse me?" And he just barges in. And apparently the sheriff got dragged in, and there was this huge thing, and it almost erupted into a combat, which could have been very, very bad. After a while, the prince was actually called back in to referee with what was going on, and was able to calm situations down. There's a relationship happening between the sheriff and the Brujah Primogen. Primarily because they were both sect war veterans. Their players are actually romantically involved as well. In fact, at the very end of game, after I called post, our ending where we come in, we do whatever ending announcements we have, we got a proposal at my game. I've never had that happen before. I feel incredibly honored. A few months ago, Rasputin's player came up to me and asked me if it would be okay if he did that. And then I thought it wasn't going to happen until like next month or the month after. But he came up and he said now was the time. So after game was over, we actually he got down on one knee and presented a ring, and everybody got to see everything happened. One of the things that he did say at the end is, "We met at a LARP. It's only fitting that we do this at a LARP." And I was just like, oh my god, that's so awesome. Anyway, back into character. We basically settled everything and decided that one of the big reasons why they were so angry is because the sheriff wasn't giving the Primogen Council information that they felt they were, like, had right to. Which is when I stood up and I said, it's funny how this Primogen Council, being a mix of Camarilla and Anarch and Independents, people who've come together to help make this city not suck. It's the Camarilla members, primarily, the ones who are acknowledged members of the city, who see themselves as Camarilla, who are complaining that the sheriff is not giving them information. Because that's when I stood up as the prince and said, that's funny, because that sheriff doesn't have to give you any information. That sheriff answers to me, not to you. And everybody was just kind of like, well. But I also said it might be a good idea to have at least a monthly before Elysium rundown on security issues in the city, to get our security team also in the know, which was some of the negative feelings on this, because we do have a chief security officer for technology, somebody who runs cameras, CCTV, things like that. My phone's going off. I'm popular. And due to lack of interaction between players in between games, there was some confusion. Some of it was the storyteller's fault, because we weren't able to actually like answer things quick enough and things like that, which is how busy we've been. But we were able to work it out so that there's going to be one person who is going to be named effectively like a court secretary, who our principal of the faith, Father Michael, who's our human, has offered to do it. I'm not 100% happy with the concept of him having more than one job, especially one being involved in our security. Prince doesn't exactly trust Father Michael that much. But we want to name a person who is just dead set responsible for receiving any information at all from Courtney, our sheriff. In which case, the Primogen Council can come and get the information that they need directly from that individual. We also named a new court position, which does not exist in the greater Laws of the Night, Mind's Eye Theater, even Vampire the Masquerade in general, which is the Kindred Ambassador to Others. Which I know that name sounds weird, but what it basically means is we have a vampire who is now responsible to going out and striking up relations with werewolves and mages and fae and anything else that's out there. This was brought on by a player who wanted to have those types of interactions. So now, Genevieve, our Ventru, the one who came and summoned me to this, conflict, is now has an official court title as the individual who goes out and gets us what we need as far as dealing with other supernaturals. So now I guess we have 2 new court positions. We have that and the secretary. The secretary we still need to fill out, and I'm going to put all of my mental power so that the people who play in this game understand that it has not been decided who that person is yet. That will be decided in between game sessions. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There was a lot of conflict, emotional. The situation with our Hekata, who was hired on to help us alleviate the situation with the wraiths. Their name is Levi, and they are a character being played by Lore, the assistant storyteller. So Giselle was not present at this Elysium, our seneschal. But it is interesting to have, flowable characters who can come in and interact. The stresses of this social environment they're mounting, and I am very much looking forward to seeing exactly what the players do as time passes, because these are situations that can lead to severe issues. The prince is being very calculated and very careful when it comes to dealing with Don Carlos of the Hekata, who came in last month and started giving opposition to the prince. Because if he handles it the wrong way, he is in violation of the promise of 1528, which will cause upheaval between the Camarilla, the Anarchs, the Hekata. Who else knows who's going to get involved in this? So the prince is trying to be careful. Anyway, with all that, that's effectively everything that happened on the 10th session of Fort Myers by Night, City of Palms. And I hope these are as helpful to anybody interested in the game, the players, as they are to me, just reminding me what I need to focus on in the game session. So please, again, I state this, please, if you are interested, if you're in the area, the game is open. Come on in and join us. We play on the first Saturday of the month at New Plague Tattoos, address in the description. And with that, thank you all for listening to me ramble on for about 20 minutes, and I will see you in the next one. Good evening.